Trump's rhetoric just keeps getting scarier and scarier. And before I play you this clip from one of his most recent interviews, remember that just recently we were having the conversation about, I really do understand and sympathize with people who say be very careful and thoughtful and level-headed with one's comparisons of modern day political figures to some of the worst dictators, for example, Hitler. And I get that because the magnitude of that comparison can't be ignored. Thus, you don't want to loosey-goosey use it. And MAGA has said that it's outrageous that when Trump will say poisoning the blood or what I'm going to play for you here, that's outrageous for even historians, authoritarian dictator experts like Ruth Ben-Ghiat to say, we're not saying Trump is blank, but we're saying these trends, these patterns, these tools that leaders utilize should be called out. And here's an example. And that comparison to dictators throughout history really, really makes MAGA mad. And they say that that is provoking violence. So on the threat to democracy phrasing, I've said there's no other way to describe what Trump represents in his actions when I walk through it. So I pose it to MAGA. How do you explain trying to block the peaceful transfer of power? How do you explain saying the Constitution should be terminated, etc., other than that sort of threat to democracy language? Because I want to do everything I can to minimize the likelihood of political violence. And I also have to be accurate while saying this threat is prevented through peaceful democratic means. And here again, how do you describe, without the sorts of comparisons y'all really don't like, this type of language other than pointing to how it's been weaponized in the past?
She wants to go into government housing. She wants to go into government feeding. She wants to feed people. She wants to feed people governmentally. She wants to go into a communist party type system. When you look at the things that she proposes, they're so far off. She has no clue. How about allowing people to come through an open border, 13,000 of which were murderers? Many of them murdered far more than one person, and they're now happily living in the United States. You know, now a murderer, I believe this, it's in their genes, and we got a lot of bad genes in our country right now. They had 425,000 people come into our country.
A lot of bad genes. A lot of bad genes in our country. Murderer genes. It's depraved. It's racism. That's what we're talking about. And every time a criticism like this is levied, instantly MAGA jumps into gear, goes, oh my gosh, you're such a hyperbole. Oh. Why won't you just address what he's saying about the border? How do we engage in a thoughtful conversation, which Kamala Harris clearly wants to, as her border visit, her border security bill, etc., show, in a reasonable way, that issue? Let's do it, but we can't if you're coming to the table being insane like this and choosing fear, demonization, dehumanization over common sense policy solutions and discussions. So, MAGA, until you're ready to speak in a normal, humanitarian way, then it's going to be very tough to have these discussions. It's also tough when it's your members of Congress blocking solutions, by the way. But that's not what this is about. This isn't about solutions. This is about addressing logistical problems or security problems. This is about dehumanizing people using the oldest tricks in the book to do so, to scare his followers into voting for him. Because if they actually analyze his policy proposals, it's not going to benefit them, so they have to be scared enough to go vote. Pretty disgusting. And he said that Vice President Harris is communist because she wants governmental food. What? I don't even know what proposal you're talking about, but you also governed with SNAP benefits, for example. Yes, we're gonna try to address hunger I don't know if that's what he means. It's not communism. Then he doubles down on that here.
I have a friend in common in Richard Nixon, and he went and saw Mao, and he went and saw Brezhnev. He met with everyone. He didn't agree with everyone, but he met with everyone. What do you think Kamala Harris would do in a meeting with Xi Jinping or Putin or Kim Jong-un?
Well, it wouldn't be her. She's just a front. There are some vicious communists and vicious fascists and Marxists that are involved in our country. Let me tell you, we have the enemy from within. The enemy from within are bad people in our government, and you see them on occasion.
And by the way, when people say Trump is using fascistic rhetoric, Trump has embodied fascistic principles, etc., MAGA says you're promoting and provoking violence. But then he calls Harris communist, Marxist, fascist, with just no connection to the meaning of those terms. No sense of, no introspection about the hypocrisy, I guess. And then just the petty attacks.
I think they don't believe anything she says. Everything she says is a liar. You know, it's a total lie. Look, she had one thing in her resume. It was a big deal. You know, I talk about it a lot because it's so simple for people to understand. I worked at McDonald's, she said. I worked there. Oh, it was so hard. It was so this. I worked there for so long. It was so terrible. She worked over the French fries. Okay, it was so terrible. The heat was so. She never worked there. Okay, that was one of many lies. Now that was a sort of a, you know, it's bigger a lie than people think. What I like is it's so simple to understand. You know, a lot of her lies, you know, they go around. Although she doesn't lie in a complicated way because her mind doesn't work that way. She's not a smart person. She's a low IQ individual, and this country can't have a low IQ person doing this for another 4 years. We had it for 4 years with him. We can't have a low IQ person. She's a stupid person. We can't have a stupid person as our president.
Yeah, she did work at McDonald's, from all we can tell. I don't know why Trump has all of a sudden become fixated saying that didn't happen. That's not the most prominent thing on her resume. She also was the attorney general of a state, was the DA of a city, was a senator, was a vice president. And I don't want to return petty attacks with petty attacks. So I'll just say I don't think intelligence competitions, an intelligence competition between Trump and Harris is the debate Trump wants people to be having. And clearly, given her presentation, in her communication, given her record, given the jobs that she's held, I don't know why I'm engaging with this in such a serious way. Clearly, those are baseless attacks as well from Trump. But these interviews are getting crazier and crazier. Y'all can tell I'm a little bit lower energy today, so I apologize for not being able to express to you with the energy this deserves how bonkers these words are, but they are, and it's frightening. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching. Make sure to get extra content, support the show by clicking the join button below.